Three German Shepherd puppies collapsed on Jake Sullivan's porch, their bodies shaking so violently he could hear their tiny bones rattling. The former Navy SEAL stood frozen in his doorway, staring at the smallest lives he'd seen since leaving the service 8 months ago. They weren't barking. They weren't begging. They were dying. And they kept looking back toward the darkness, toward something in the forest he couldn't see yet. Jake had survived 12 years in the deadliest places on Earth. Firefights in Kandahar, IEDs in Mosul, missions that never made the news. But tonight, in the Colorado wilderness where he'd come to forget, 3 freezing puppies were about to drag him into a fight he never saw coming. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and stay with us until the very end. This story will show you that sometimes the smallest knocks on your door lead to the greatest battles worth fighting. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. We want to see how far this story of courage and redemption travels. Now, let's begin. The scratching came at 11:47. Jake Sullivan heard it over the wind, over the howling storm that had buried the Colorado Rockies under 2 feet of snow in 6 hours. A soft sound. Desperate. Claws against wood. He set down his coffee. Cold anyway. Everything in the cabin was cold, except the wood stove that glowed in the corner like the only living thing for miles. Atlas lifted his head from where he'd been sleeping. The German Shepherd's ears went rigid. Not a threat posture. Something else. Something that made the retired military working dog stand and move toward the door with purpose. "What is it, boy?" The scratching came again, weaker this time. Jake stood. His body moved before his mind caught up. 12 years of SEAL training would do that. He was 35 years old, and his knees still worked, his back still held, but his soul felt about 100. That's what 8 months of isolation in the mountains did to a man. He grabbed his jacket from the hook. Atlas was already at the door, whining low in his throat. Not a warning, a request. Jake opened the door and the cold hit him like a fist. 3 tiny shapes huddled on his porch. Puppies. German Shepherd puppies. Maybe 6, 7 weeks old. Their fur was matted with ice. Their bodies trembled so hard they could barely stand. Jesus Christ! The largest one, dark sable coat, maybe 3 pounds, lifted his head. His eyes met Jake's for one brief second. Then the puppy turned and looked back toward the forest. Looked back and cried. Not for himself, for something else. Jake's chest tightened. He'd seen that look before. In Helmand province, in a village where Taliban had left civilians behind. That look that said, "Please, there are others. Please don't leave them." "Okay," Jake whispered. "Okay, I've got you." He scooped up all 3 puppies in his arms. They were so light. Too light. Their little hearts hammered against his chest like birds trying to escape a cage. Inside, he set them near the wood stove. Not too close. Hypothermia protocol from SEAL medical training kicked in. Gradual warming. Prevent shock. Atlas moved in immediately, sniffing each puppy carefully. The big shepherd lay down, and the puppies crawled toward his warmth without hesitation. Trust. Pure animal trust. Jake grabbed towels, started drying them gently. The largest puppy, the sable one, kept crying, kept looking at the door. "There's more, isn't there?" The puppy's eyes answered. Jake pulled on his thermal gear, heavy coat, gloves, headlamp. He grabbed his go bag, old habits from deployment. First aid kit, thermal blanket, knife. "Atlas, stay, guard them." The shepherd looked at him with amber eyes that said, "Be careful." Outside, the storm tried to push Jake back inside. Wind-driven snow cut at his face like razors. Temperature had to be 15 below before wind chill. Maybe worse. He followed the tiny tracks in the snow. They were already filling in. Another 10 minutes, and they'd be gone completely. The tracks led into the forest. Jake clicked on his headlamp and followed. 20 yards, 50, 100. The tracks were erratic. The puppies had stumbled, fallen, gotten back up, kept going. What could drive puppies this young through a blizzard? 200 yards from the cabin, Jake found the answer. A German shepherd lay in the snow. Full grown, maybe 3 years old. Black and tan coat crusted with ice. Her breathing came in short, pained gasps, and her left hind leg was caught in a snare. Professional grade, steel cable, the kind poachers used illegally, the kind that didn't release. "Hey, Mama," Jake said softly. "I'm here to help." The dog's eyes found him, exhausted, terrified, protective even now. Jake moved slowly. His headlamp showed blood in the snow. The snare had cut deep. How long had she been here? Hours? She must have used every ounce of strength to send her puppies for help. "Your babies are safe," Jake told her. "They're warm. They're okay. Now let me help you." He pulled out his knife. The dog growled. Weak, but clear. I know you don't know me, but your puppies trusted me. Can you?" Atlas appeared out of the storm, must have followed despite orders. The big shepherd approached the trapped mother carefully. Let her smell him. Some communication passed between them that Jake couldn't interpret. The mother dog stopped growling. "Thank you, boy," Jake whispered to Atlas. He cut the snare carefully. The cable was biting into muscle. Blood welled up immediately when he released the pressure. The leg might be broken, definitely damaged. The moment she was free, the mother dog tried to stand. Collapsed. "Whoa, easy, I've got you." Jake wrapped her in the thermal blanket. She was big, 70, maybe 75 pounds. Injured. In shock. He'd carried wounded brothers through worse terrain in Afghanistan, but this felt different. This felt like the first thing that mattered in 8 months. He lifted her as gently as he could. She whimpered, but didn't fight. Atlas led the way back, breaking trail through the deep snow. The cabin appeared like salvation. Warm light in the window. Smoke from the chimney. Inside, the 3 puppies erupted in squeaking cries when they saw their mother. Jake set her down carefully near the stove. The puppies swarmed her immediately, pressing their tiny bodies against hers. The mother shepherd's eyes closed. Not in death. In relief. "Okay," Jake said, hands shaking now. Adrenaline crash. "Okay, let's assess." He checked the puppies first. All 3 were warming up. Their shivering had decreased. Good sign. Frostbite on the paws maybe, but they'd make it. The mother was worse. Leg injury, hypothermia, malnutrition. He could feel her ribs too easily. How long had she been running? Jake pulled out his satellite phone, thought about calling emergency vet services. But the storm was too severe. Nobody was driving these mountain roads tonight. He was on his own, just like always. He set up a makeshift treatment area, heated water, found antibacterial soap. His SEAL medical training had covered field treatment of wounds. Different context, same principles. He cleaned the leg wound carefully. The mother dog watched him with those amber eyes, trusting, the way her puppies had trusted. "You're a good mama," Jake told her quietly. "Sending them for help. That took everything you had, didn't it?" She licked his hand, once, weak but deliberate. Something in Jake's chest cracked. Not broke, cracked open, like ice thawing. He bandaged the leg, gave her water with a little sugar mixed in. Energy, hydration. She drank gratefully. The puppies had fallen asleep in a pile, tiny bodies rising and falling in unison. Safe now. Atlas lay nearby, guardian, protector. Jake sat back against the wall. His hands were still shaking. Not from cold, from something else. For 8 months he'd been dead inside. Since the medical discharge. Since losing Titan, his canine partner, and 2 teammates in that last mission. Since coming to this cabin to hide from a world that wanted him to be okay when he wasn't. For 8 months, nothing had mattered. And now 4 dogs were sleeping in his cabin, and suddenly everything mattered. He checked his watch. 1:30 in the morning. The storm showed no signs of stopping. Jake stood, checked the mother dog's vital signs again. Respiration steady, pulse strong enough. The puppies were warm, dry, safe. He should sleep, but his mind was racing. That snare, professional grade, illegal in national forest land, which this was. Somebody had set that trap deliberately, and if there was one, there were probably more. Jake pulled out his laptop. Satellite internet was slow, but it worked. He searched illegal trapping, Colorado, national forest. What he found made his jaw clench. Multiple reports over the past 3 months. Wildlife injured or killed. 2 dogs found dead. 1 deer with a broken leg had to be euthanized. All reported to authorities. No action taken. Jake knew that pattern. Bureaucracy. Lack of resources. Cases that fell through cracks. But this wasn't just a case. This was a mother and 3 babies who almost died tonight. He looked at the sleeping dogs. Looked at Atlas. Looked at his reflection in the dark window. And felt something he hadn't felt in 8 months. Purpose. The storm raged outside. Inside, Jake Sullivan made a decision. He wasn't going to let this go. At 3 in the morning, the smallest puppy started crying. Different cry. Distress. Jake was on his feet immediately. The puppy, light sable coat, the runt of the litter, was breathing too fast. Shaking again, despite the warmth. "Come here, little one." Jake picked him up. So tiny. Heart racing like a hummingbird. The puppy's temperature was dropping. Why? He'd been warm. He'd been fine. Then Jake saw it. The puppy's gums were pale. Too pale. Internal injury? Hypothermia complication? "Stay with me," Jake whispered. "Stay with me, buddy." He wrapped the puppy in a warm towel, held him against his chest. Body heat. Direct transfer. The mother dog lifted her head, whined. "He's okay," Jake told her, hoping it was true. "He's going to be okay." He grabbed his satellite phone. Screw the storm. He needed help. The call went through to emergency veterinary services. A woman answered. Professional. Calm. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen. What's your emergency?" Jake explained. "Found puppies in storm. Mother trapped in snare. Smallest puppy crashing." "How old are the puppies?" 6, maybe 7 weeks. "And the runt, what are his symptoms?" "Rapid breathing, pale gums, temperature dropping despite external warming." Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. "Could be shock. Could be internal bleeding if he was injured during the journey. Can you check for abdominal tenderness?" Jake pressed gently on the puppy's belly. The little guy squeaked. "Tender. Left side. Possible internal injury. Listen carefully. You need to keep him warm. Keep him hydrated if he can drink. Monitor breathing. But honestly," she paused, "in this storm, I can't reach you, even in my truck." "How far are you?" 20 miles. but the roads are impassable. I'm sorry." Jake looked at the tiny puppy in his hands, felt the fragile heartbeat, thought about all the times in combat when sorry meant somebody died. "Talk me through treatment." "You're not a veterinarian." "I'm a former Navy SEAL with field medical training, and I'm all he's got tonight." Another pause. Then Dr. Chen's voice came back, different, focused. "Okay, let's save this puppy." For the next 2 hours, Dr. Sarah Chen walked Jake through emergency veterinary protocols, checking vital signs, monitoring hydration, keeping the puppy's temperature stable. The mother dog watched. The other 2 puppies slept. Atlas kept vigil. And Jake fought for a life that weighed less than a pound. At 5:47 in the morning, the puppy's breathing stabilized. "I think—" Jake's voice cracked. "I think he's improving." "You did good," Dr. Chen said through the phone. "You did really good. Keep monitoring him. I'll come out as soon as the road's clear." "Thank you." "What's your name?" "Jake. Jake Sullivan." "Well, Jake Sullivan, you just saved a life tonight. Most people would have given up." Jake looked at the puppy, the mother, the other babies, Atlas. "They didn't give up on me. Least I could do was return the favor." After Dr. Chen hung up, Jake sat in the quiet cabin. Dawn was coming. He could see it in the way the darkness outside was turning gray. The storm was ending. The puppy slept in his hands, breathing steady now, a fighter, just like his mother. Jake thought about names. The largest puppy, Brave, led the others. He'd call Scout. The middle one, lighter coat, graceful, Luna. And this little fighter in his hands, Bear, because he'd fought like something 10 times his size. The mother would be Ranger. She'd ranged far to save her babies. And Atlas, he was already named, already family. 5 dogs now, in a cabin meant for solitude. Jake smiled. First real smile in 8 months. Maybe solitude was overrated. When full daylight came, Jake inspected the cabin's supplies. He'd stocked up on freeze-dried meals for himself. Nothing for dogs. He mixed some water with a little peanut butter, protein, calories. The puppies lapped it up eagerly. Ranger ate slowly but deliberately. Good signs. Atlas shared his kibble without complaint. "We need real supplies," Jake told him. "Puppy food, medical supplies, better bandages." The roads would be clear by afternoon if the plows came through. The small town of Pine Ridge was 15 miles down the mountain. Jake had avoided it for 8 months. Guess that was about to change. He checked on each dog one more time. All stable, all sleeping peacefully. Then Jake stepped outside. The storm had transformed the landscape. Everything buried under pristine white. Beautiful. Deadly. He walked to where he'd found Ranger. The snare was still there, cable cut, stained with blood. Jake examined it carefully. Professional grade. Expensive. The kind of equipment serious poachers used. He looked around, found 2 more snares within 50 yards. Both set near game trails. Both illegal. His SEAL instincts kicked in. This wasn't random. This was systematic. Someone running illegal trap lines through protected wilderness. Jake photographed everything. GPS coordinates, snare locations, serial numbers on the cables. Evidence. Because this wasn't over. Someone had nearly killed a mother and her puppies. And Jake Sullivan had learned a long time ago that some fights choose you. You don't walk away. You finish them. Back at the cabin, Bear was awake. The little puppy looked at Jake with dark eyes and squeaked. "Yeah, buddy, I know. You're hungry." Jake fed all 3 puppies the makeshift meal. They attacked it like tiny wolves. growing stronger by the hour. Ranger watched with maternal pride. "Your babies are fighters," Jake told her. "Just like you." She thumped her tail once, weakly but definitely. At noon, Jake heard the sound of a truck engine. His hand went to the hunting rifle by the door. Old habits. Atlas stood, alert but not aggressive. Through the window, Jake saw a blue pickup pulling up. Woman driving, short dark hair. Professional looking even in winter gear. Dr. Sarah Chen. Jake opened the door. "Roads cleared faster than expected," she said, climbing out with a large veterinary bag. "Thought I'd check on my patient. We're glad to see you." Inside, Dr. Chen examined all 4 dogs with efficient expertise. She worked quietly, thoroughly, explaining everything she was doing. "The mother, Ranger, you said? She needs surgery on that leg. But it can wait a few days until she's stronger. The wound is clean. You did good work." "Field medicine." "Navy SEAL field medicine is apparently excellent." She moved to the puppies, checked Scout, Luna, and Bear carefully. "They're doing remarkably well considering what they went through. Bear here is the miracle. He shouldn't have made it." "He's a fighter." "So's his rescuer, apparently." Dr. Chen looked at Jake with professional assessment. "The mother would have died if you hadn't found her. The puppies would have frozen. You saved 5 lives last night." Jake shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. Always had been. "They saved me first." Dr. Chen didn't push. She left medications, puppy formula, feeding instructions. Then she handed Jake a card. "Mountain Animal Clinic. That's my practice. Call me if anything changes. And Jake," she hesitated, "thank you for caring. A lot of people wouldn't have." After she left, Jake looked at the business card. On the back, she'd written a personal cell number. "For emergencies," it said. "Or if you just want to talk about the case." Case. She knew this was more than a rescue. Jake fed the dogs, changed Ranger's bandages, played gently with the puppies who were getting stronger and more energetic by the hour. Scout had natural leadership. Luna was curious about everything. Bear compensated for his size with determination. They were going to be amazing dogs, if Jake could keep them safe. That evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Jake sat on his porch with Atlas. The shepherd leaned against his leg. Solid. Present. "What do you think, boy? 5 dogs. That's a lot of responsibility." Atlas looked at him with knowing eyes. "Yeah, I know. We've handled worse." Jake thought about the snares, about Dr. Chen's mention of the case, about the fact that these weren't the first animals injured. Tomorrow he'd go into town, talk to the sheriff, report what he'd found, do things by the book. But if the book didn't work, and Jake had seen enough to know sometimes it didn't, well, he had other skills. Inside the cabin, the puppies were playing, tiny growls and squeaks. Ranger watched them with patient eyes. Life, pure and simple and worth protecting. Jake stood, made his decision. These dogs had knocked on his door for a reason, had led him to something bigger than himself. He wasn't going to let them down. The fight was just beginning. The road into Pine Ridge hadn't been plowed well. Jake's truck slid twice on the 15-mile drive down the mountain. The puppies whined from their crate in the back seat. Atlas sat in the passenger seat, alert but calm. Jake hadn't been to town in 8 months, not since the day after his discharge, when he'd driven straight to the cabin and locked himself away. The thought of people, their questions, their pity, their thanks for his service that felt like knives, had kept him isolated. But the dogs needed food, real food, puppy formula, medical supplies. And Jake needed answers about those snares. Pine Ridge was exactly as he remembered. Small, quiet, Main Street lined with shops that had been there since before he was born. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone's business. Jake parked in front of the feed store, took a deep breath. Atlas whined softly. "I know, boy. I don't want to be here either. But we don't have a choice." Inside, the store smelled like hay and leather and coffee. An older man behind the counter looked up. His eyes widened.
"Jake Sullivan? That really you?"
Jake nodded. Didn't trust his voice yet. "Heard you'd come back. Bought the Harrison place up on the ridge." The man extended his hand. "Bill Henderson. We met a few times before you deployed. You probably don't remember." Jake shook his hand. "I remember. What can I do for you?" Jake handed him a list. Puppy food, medical supplies, training equipment. Bill's eyebrows rose. "That's a lot of dogs." 4 puppies, 2 adults. "Starting a kennel?" "Something like that." Bill gathered the supplies without more questions. As Jake was paying, an elderly woman approached. Short, gray hair cut practical, eyes sharp with intelligence. "You're the SEAL," she said. Not a question. "Yes, ma'am." "Martha Kowalski. I've lived in these mountains 40 years. Know every trail, every cabin, every damn tree." She glanced at Bill, then back to Jake. "Can I talk to you? Privately?" Jake followed her outside. Atlas came too. Martha studied the shepherd with approval. "Beautiful dog. Military?" "Was. Retired now." "Like you." She didn't wait for confirmation. "I heard you found some dogs caught in snares, up near your place." "How did you hear that?" "Small town. Dr. Chen treats animals. Word gets around." Martha's voice dropped. "Those snares aren't random, son. There's been activity in the old mining area. Men with trucks, late at night, coming and going on Forest Road 12. Jake's attention sharpened. "What kind of activity?" "The kind you don't ask about if you want to keep living peaceful." She pulled out a hand-drawn map. "I marked the spots where I've seen them, 3 times in the last month. Always after midnight. Always the same trucks." "Did you report this to Sheriff Wolf?" "Tom Wolf is a good man, but he's got 3 deputies for 200 square miles. By the time they could check it out, whoever's up there is long gone." Martha's eyes were sad. "I found 2 dogs dead last month, caught in snares, left to suffer. And a deer, with its leg broken, had to be put down." Jake felt his jaw clench. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I saw your truck coming down the mountain this morning. Saw the dog crates. Saw the way you move, like a man who knows how to handle trouble." Martha handed him the map. "And because those men up there? They're not local. They're organized, professional. The kind of evil that needs stopping." After Martha left, Jake sat in his truck staring at the map. The locations she'd marked were within 2 miles of where he'd found Ranger. This wasn't coincidence. Sheriff Tom Wolf's office was 2 blocks away. Jake had been avoiding it. But Martha was right. This needed to be reported. Wolf was in his 50s, ex-Marine. You could see it in his posture, his haircut, the way he sized up Jake when he walked in. "Jake Sullivan, heard you were back." "Sheriff?" "Tom, we don't stand on formality here." Wolf gestured to a chair. "What can I do for you?" Jake laid out everything. The snares, the injured dogs, Martha's information about suspicious activity, the professional-grade equipment. Wolf listened without interrupting. When Jake finished, he leaned back in his chair. "I appreciate you bringing this to me, and I believe you. But son, I've got a problem." "What problem?" "Budget cuts. Staff cuts. I've got 3 deputies covering territory that should need 10. We respond to emergencies, domestic calls, traffic accidents. Illegal trapping? He shook his head. It goes on the list. But that list is long, and this department is short. So nothing happens. I didn't say that. I'm saying it takes time. I'll send a deputy up to check those locations, document what we find. But if these guys are as professional as you say, they'll see us coming and disappear. Jake stood. Then what's the point? The point is, we do it by the book. We build a case. We gather evidence.
And when we've got enough,
We bring in state police. Maybe even the FBI. Wolf stood too. I know you want immediate action. I get that. But this is how the system works. The system doesn't work fast enough. No, but it's legal, which vigilante justice isn't. Wolf's voice hardened. You're a civilian now, Jake. Whatever you learned in the SEALs about taking matters into your own hands, that doesn't apply here. You understand? I understand. But Jake's tone said he didn't agree. Back at the cabin, Jake unloaded supplies. The puppies were ecstatic. Bear had grown stronger in just 3 days. Still the smallest, but now he kept up with Scout and Luna without struggling. Ranger watched from her bed near the stove. Her leg was healing well. Sarah had done excellent work. The dog could put weight on it now. Soon, she'd be walking normally. Jake fed everyone. Then he pulled out his laptop and started mapping. Martha's locations, the snares he'd found, the spot where Ranger had been trapped. When he plotted them all, a pattern emerged. They formed a rough circle around the old mining camp, about 5 square miles. Someone was running trap lines through that territory. Systematic, professional. And if Martha was right about the trucks, there was a base of operations somewhere in that circle. Atlas appeared at Jake's side, put his head on Jake's knee. I know what you're thinking, Jake said quietly. You're thinking this is a bad idea, that I should leave it to law enforcement. Atlas didn't respond, just kept his steady amber eyes on Jake's face. But those dogs, Ranger, Scout, Luna, Bear, they almost died. And how many others didn't make it? Jake pulled up images on his laptop. News articles about illegal dogfighting, animal trafficking, operations that ran for years before being shut down. The system moves slow. These guys won't wait. His phone rang. Dr. Sarah Chen. How are my patients? She asked. Good. All good.
Bear's gaining weight. Ranger's walking without limping.
That's excellent news. A pause. Jake, I heard you went into town today. Talked to Sheriff Wolf. Small towns. Nothing stayed private. I reported what I found, like a good citizen. And what did Tom say? That it'll take time, that the system has to work. He's right. I know he's right. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Sarah's voice softened. Jake, I know what you're thinking. I can hear it in your voice. You're planning something. I'm not planning anything. You're a terrible liar. Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. These people are dangerous. You could get hurt. Or killed. I've faced worse. This isn't Afghanistan. You don't have a team. You don't have backup. You're one man with PTSD and survivor's guilt who's looking for a mission because without one, you don't know who you are anymore. The words hit like bullets. True ones. Sarah. I care about you, Jake. I care about those dogs, but I can't watch you throw your life away because you think you have something to prove. After she hung up, Jake sat in silence. Was she right? Was this about the dogs, or about him needing to feel useful again? He looked at Atlas, at Ranger, at 3 puppies who'd crawled through a blizzard because their mother had sent them for help. Maybe it was both. Maybe that was okay. That afternoon, Jake did what SEALs did best. Reconnaissance. He took Atlas and hiked the area Martha had marked on her map, stayed off trails, moved quietly, watched for signs of human activity. 3 hours in, Atlas froze, ears forward, body tense. Jake dropped to a crouch, scanned the area, saw nothing. But Atlas was never wrong. They moved forward carefully, through a dense stand of pines, around a rocky outcrop, and there it was. A makeshift camp hidden in a clearing. Old wooden structure, probably from the mining days. But someone had reinforced it, added a newer roof, cleared the ground around it.
Fresh tire tracks in the mud. Multiple vehicles. Heavy ones.
Jake pulled out his phone, started photographing everything. The structure, the tracks, the cleared area. Atlas growled low. Jake touched his head. "I know, boy. I feel it too." They circled the camp. On the far side, Jake found something that made his blood run cold. Dog kennels. Empty now, but recently used. He could see paw prints in the mud, scratch marks on the metal, and blood. Old stains on the concrete pad beneath. This wasn't just poaching. This was something worse. Jake's hands were shaking as he photographed everything. Sent the images to Sheriff Wolf with GPS coordinates. Sent copies to Dr. Chen. Created a backup on cloud storage. Evidence. Solid evidence. Now the system would have to act. His phone buzzed. Sheriff Wolf. "Got your photos. Jesus Christ, Jake. This is bigger than I thought." "It's a dogfighting operation. Maybe trafficking, too. I'm calling state police right now, and the FBI. This is organized crime level."
How long until they can move on it?
Few days, maybe a week. They need to coordinate, get warrants, plan the raid.
A week is too long.
Jake, do not do anything stupid. You hear me? You've given us what we need. Now let us do our jobs. But Jake was already thinking about the camp, about the empty kennels, about whoever was running this operation moving locations before law enforcement could act. He hiked back to his cabin as the sun was setting, fed the dogs, checked on Ranger, played with the puppies. Sarah called again.
Tom Wolf told me what you found. He said you're planning something.
I'm not.
Jake, please. Please don't do this. Wait for the police. Let them handle it.
What if they're gone by then? What if they move the operation?
Then at least you'll be alive to find them again.
After dark, Jake heard vehicles. He was outside with Atlas when headlights appeared on the access road, moving slowly, searching. Jake killed his porch light, moved into shadow, Atlas beside him, completely silent. 2 trucks. They stopped 50 yards from the cabin. Didn't pull into the driveway, just sat there, engines running. Jake's hand moved to his sidearm. Checked the magazine. Full. 1 in the chamber. The trucks sat for 5 minutes. Long enough for Jake to memorize makes, models, partial license plates. Long enough for his heart rate to slow. For his SEAL training to override civilian fear. Then they left. Slowly. Deliberately. A message. We know where you are. Jake waited 30 minutes after they were gone. Then he went inside and locked every door and window, set up motion sensors, positioned himself where he could see all approaches. The dogs sensed his tension. Ranger moved to guard position at the door. Atlas lay near the window. The puppies huddled together. They were a pack now, and someone was threatening their territory. At midnight, the vehicles returned, this time with more purpose. Jake watched through night vision as 4 men got out, walked the perimeter of his property, shined flashlights, talked on radios. They were casing the place, planning something. One man walked right up to Jake's truck, looked inside, took photos, ran his hand along the hood like he was making a point. Jake's finger was on his phone, ready to call 911. But what would he say? Men are looking at my truck? After 20 minutes, they left again. Jake didn't sleep. Couldn't. He sat with his rifle across his lap and Atlas at his feet and waited for dawn. When Sarah arrived at 7 to check on Ranger, she saw Jake's face and knew. They came back, didn't they? Twice, casing the property, making sure I know they're watching. That's it. We're calling the police, getting protection. From who? Tom Wolfe has 3 deputies. They can't guard me 24/7. Then you leave. Take the dogs. Go somewhere safe until this is resolved. Jake looked at the 5 dogs, at the cabin, at the first place that had felt like home in 8 months. I'm not running. It's not running. It's surviving. Same thing. Sarah grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Listen to me. These men are professionals. They're organized. They're dangerous. And you're one person. I don't care how much SEAL training you have. You cannot take them on alone. I don't plan to take them on. I plan to find out who they are, document their operation, give law enforcement everything they need to shut them down. That's the same thing as taking them on. No, it's reconnaissance. It's intelligence gathering. It's what I was trained to do. You were trained to have a team, backup, support. Jake didn't argue. Couldn't. She was right. But he also knew that waiting meant more animals would suffer, more dogs would die, more time for these bastards to operate freely. That afternoon, while Sarah was treating Ranger, Jake made his decision. He'd do one reconnaissance mission, tonight, document the operation fully, then turn everything over to the FBI and step back. One mission, that's all. He spent the day preparing, checked his gear, loaded his weapon, reviewed maps, planned routes in and out. Atlas watched him with knowing eyes. The dog had been on missions before, knew the routine. Not this time, boy, Jake said quietly. I need you here, protecting them. The shepherd's ears drooped. I know you want to come. But if something happens to me, you're the only one who can keep them safe. Can you do that? Atlas moved to where Ranger lay with her puppies, positioned himself protectively. Message received. Sarah found Jake at 6 p.m., loading his tactical vest. You're going tonight. Just reconnaissance, in and out. I'll be careful. Jake, please. I have to. You know I have to. He turned to face her. These dogs trusted me. Ranger sent her puppies to my door because something in her knew I'd help. I can't let her down. I can't let any of them down. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. And if you get killed? If you leave these dogs without anyone to protect them? Is that not letting them down? I'm not going to get killed. You don't know that. No, but I know if I do nothing, more animals die. And I can't live with that. She kissed him. Hard, desperate. Come back. That's an order. Yes, ma'am. At 9 p.m., Jake left. Full tactical gear, night vision, camera, GPS tracker in his pocket in case something went wrong. Sarah would know where to find his body. Morbid thought. He pushed it away. Atlas whined at the door. Jake knelt beside him. Guard them. All of them. That's your mission. Understood? The shepherd licked his face. Understanding. Jake slipped into the night. The temperature had dropped. His breath made clouds in the darkness. He moved through the forest like a ghost. Every step placed deliberately. Every sound monitored. The tracks from the trucks were easy to follow. They'd gotten sloppy, confident. That was a mistake. Jake followed them for 2 miles, deeper into wilderness, farther from civilization. Then he saw light ahead. Faint, artificial. He approached carefully, used terrain for cover, moved the way he'd moved through countless hostile territories. And what he found made everything worse. The camp Martha had mentioned was bigger than he'd thought. 3 large tents, generator running, multiple vehicles, and dogs. At least 15 dogs in cages, some pit bulls, some shepherds, breeds built for fighting. Jake's stomach turned. This was a dog-fighting operation, full-scale, professional. He raised his camera, started documenting every structure, every cage, every vehicle. License plates, faces of the men working. Then he heard it. A sound that made his blood freeze. A puppy crying. Young, German shepherd. Jake adjusted his night vision, focused on the small cage near the supply tent. And there, barely visible, was a 4th puppy. Same markings as Scout and Luna and Bear. Same age. Ranger's 4th baby, the one they'd kept. Jake's hands tightened on his camera. They had the 4th puppy. They'd separated him from his mother and siblings, and from the equipment around that cage, the training gear, the bite sticks. Jake knew exactly what they planned to use him for. Bait. Every muscle in Jake's body screamed to move, to grab that puppy and run. But he was one man against at least 8, all armed, all professional. Moving now meant dying, meant failing the other 4 dogs who needed him. So Jake did the hardest thing he'd ever done. He documented everything. Photographed that puppy in his cage, recorded the evidence. And then he retreated into the darkness. He made it 50 yards before his satellite phone buzzed. Sheriff Wolf. "Jake, where are you?" "In the field." "Jesus Christ, you're at the camp, aren't you?" "Just leaving." "Get out of there, now. I just got word. Those guys are connected to a multi-state trafficking ring. They've got resources, weapons, and they know someone's been investigating them." "How would they know?" "Because someone tipped them off. Probably someone in law enforcement on their payroll." Wolf's voice was urgent. "Jake, these aren't just poachers. They're organized crime. You need to get out and let the FBI handle this." "There's a 4th puppy, Tom. Ranger's 4th baby. They've got him." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry. I know that's hard. But you cannot go back for him. Not alone." "Then when? When is the FBI moving?" 3 days. They need to coordinate with multiple agencies." 3 days and that puppy is dead. Or worse. "I know, but Jake..." Jake ended the call, stood in the darkness weighing options. Extraction now. High risk. Probably fatal. But the puppy survives. Wait 3 days. Low risk to Jake. High risk to puppy. Other dogs might suffer too. His SEAL training said wait. Build the plan. Execute with proper support. But his heart, the part that had been dead 8 months ago until 3 puppies knocked on his door, that part said different. Some fights you can't walk away from. Some lives are worth the risk. Jake made his choice. He was going back for that puppy. Tonight. No matter what it cost. Because Ranger had trusted him. And trust meant everything. Jake left at 3 in the morning. Ranger and the puppies were sleeping peacefully in the cabin. Atlas wasn't. The big shepherd stood at the door, tail low, eyes fixed on Jake with an intensity that made his chest tight. "I know, boy. I know you want to come." Jake knelt and gripped Atlas's fur. "But I need you here, protecting them. Can you do that for me?" Atlas whined. A sound Jake had only heard twice before. Once in Afghanistan, when they'd lost Titan. Once at the VA hospital,
when Jake had been discharged.
"I'm coming back. I promise." The lie tasted bitter. Jake knew better than to promise anything in combat. And that's what this was. Combat. He grabbed his gear, night vision scope, camera, GPS. His old tactical vest from deployment. The Sig Sauer P226 he'd sworn he'd never carry again. Tonight, he carried it. The forest was silent, except for his breathing. Jake moved through the darkness the way he'd moved through Kandahar. Slow, deliberate. Every step planned 3 steps ahead. The tracks from the trucks he'd spotted 2 nights ago led deeper into the wilderness. Jake followed them for 2 miles until the trees opened up near the old mining ruins. What he saw stopped him cold. 3 large heated tents, generator humming, lights inside casting shadows, and cages. At least 15 dog cages visible from his position. Jake raised the night vision scope, scanned the area. 4 men outside, rotating patrols, armed, professional movements. This wasn't some local poaching operation. This was organized. He circled wide, found a vantage point on higher ground, settled in, and started documenting everything. Photos, video, voice recorder capturing details. 3 structures. Main tent approximately 40 by 20 feet. 2 smaller tents flanking. 4 visible guards. Rotating 30-minute patrols. Armed with rifles and sidearms. Multiple vehicles. 3 trucks, 1 van. License plates. A sound cut through his whispered recording. A puppy crying. Jake's blood went cold. He adjusted the scope, focused on the smallest tent. And there, in a cage barely big enough to turn around in, was a German Shepherd puppy. Maybe 6 weeks old. Same markings as Scout and Luna and Bear. The 4th sibling. Jake's hands tightened on the scope. They'd kept one. Why? Training? Bait? His jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. He watched for 3 hours, documented everything, counted 8 men total working in shifts, saw them bring out dogs for training, pit bulls, Rottweilers, breeds built for fighting. Saw the blood, the injuries, the casual cruelty. At 6 in the morning, Jake retreated. He had what he needed. Evidence. Proof. He'd take it to Sheriff Wolf, and the FBI would handle it. That was the plan. Then he heard the puppy cry again. Just once. Weak. Hopeless. Jake stopped walking. Thought about protocol. Thought about doing things the right way. Thought about how the system worked slowly, and this puppy didn't have time. Thought about Scout and Luna and Bear, about Ranger, about how they'd trusted him to do the right thing. He turned around. The guard rotation changed at 7. Jake knew their pattern now. 30 seconds when the backside of the camp was unwatched. 30 seconds. He moved during the next rotation. Silent. Fast. Reached the small tent and sliced through the canvas with his knife. Seals didn't use doors. Inside, the puppy's cage sat on a wooden crate. The little guy, tan and black like his mother, lifted his head. Too weak to bark. Too scared to hope. "Hey, Valor," Jake whispered. The name came automatically. "Let's get you home." He picked the lock on the cage. 3 seconds. Another SEAL skill civilians didn't need to know about. The puppy crawled into his hands, shaking, trusting. Jake tucked him inside his jacket, zipped it up, started back toward the cut canvas, and triggered the motion sensor he hadn't seen in the darkness. Alarms screamed. "Shit!" Jake ran, shouts behind him, boots pounding. The generator powering the camp went dark. Someone cut the power, trying to use night vision. But Jake had trained for this.
He knew darkness, owned it. He sprinted through the forest. The puppy squeaked against his chest. "Stay quiet, buddy. Stay quiet." Gunshots, wild. They were shooting blind. Jake dove behind a fallen log, assessed. 4 men pursuing, spread out. Semi-professional tactics. Ex-military, maybe.
Or law enforcement gone bad. He couldn't fight them, not with a puppy in his jacket. Not when his mission was extraction, not engagement. He moved again, using terrain, using darkness, leading them away from his cabin, away from Ranger and the other puppies. More gunshots, closer now. Jake's radio, the one he'd carried out of habit, crackled. He'd left it on an open frequency. Stupid mistake. Or maybe not. "I know who you are, soldier boy." The voice was calm, cold. "Sullivan, right? Jake Sullivan. Retired SEAL living up in the old Harrison cabin." Jake kept rumming, didn't respond. "We know where you live. We know about the dogs you're keeping. The mother and her pups. Be a shame if something happened to them." Jake stopped running, turned on his radio. "You go near them and I'll kill every last one of you." A laugh. "There it is. The warrior. Heard you lost your whole team in Afghanistan. Heard you couldn't save them. How's that feel, hero?" Jake's hand trembled on the radio. "Who are you?" "Name's Victor Kane, and you just made the biggest mistake of your life." A figure stepped out from behind a tree 20 yards ahead. Tall, built like a fighter, rifle pointed at Jake's chest. "Your choice, Sullivan. Give me the puppy and walk away, or we do this the hard way." Jake's hand moved toward his sidearm. "I wouldn't." Victor gestured. 3 more men appeared from the darkness. Flanking positions. Professional. Jake was surrounded, outgunned, with a puppy in his jacket who depended on him. The math was simple. He couldn't win this fight. Not here. Not now. But surrender meant death. For him and the puppy. Jake's SEAL training had prepared him for impossible situations. The key was changing the game. "Okay," Jake said, raised his hands. "Okay, you win." Victor smiled, started forward. And that's when Atlas hit him from the side. 75 pounds of furious German Shepherd moving at full speed. Victor went down hard. His rifle flew into the snow. The other men turned, confused. Atlas was a blur of fur and teeth and controlled violence. Jake moved, drew his sidearm. "Drop your weapons, now!" One man raised his rifle. Jake put a round in the ground at his feet. "I said drop them." The weapons fell. "Atlas, heel!" The shepherd released Victor and moved to Jake's side. Blood on his muzzle, not his own. Jake kept his gun steady. "You're going to walk away, all of you. And if I see you near my property, near any dogs, near anything I care about, the next rounds go center mass. We clear?" Victor stood slowly. His face was a mess. Atlas had done serious damage. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is. Because I've got 3 hours of video documentation of your operation. License plates, faces, everything. It's already uploaded to a secure server. Anything happens to me, it goes straight to the FBI. A lie, but a good one." Victor's eyes narrowed. "You're bluffing." "Try me." The standoff lasted 10 seconds. Felt like 10 hours. Then Victor spat blood into the snow. "Let's go." The 4 men retreated into the darkness. Jake waited until their sounds faded. Then he collapsed against a tree. His hands were shaking. The puppy squirmed in his jacket. "Atlas, you beautiful bastard. You broke orders." The shepherd wagged his tail once, unrepentant. "Come on,
Let's get home before they change their minds. The run back to the cabin took 20 minutes. Jake's lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he didn't slow down. Ranger stood at the door when they arrived. She knew. Somehow, she knew. Jake unzipped his jacket. 4 puppies reunited. Ranger sniffed Valor carefully, licked him head to tail, then looked at Jake with eyes that held more gratitude than any words could express. "Yeah, Mama, your family's complete." Jake locked the doors, secured the windows,
Then grabbed his satellite phone and called Sheriff Wolf. "Sullivan, it's 7:30 in the morning. This better be—" "I found them. The poaching operation. It's bigger than we thought." Silence. Then, "How much bigger?" "Dogfighting ring. Wildlife trafficking. Organized crime level. 8 to 10 men. Professional equipment. Located at the old mining ruins off Forest Road 12. "Jesus, how do you know all this?" "I did reconnaissance last night."
"You—"
Wolf's voice changed.
Sullivan, tell me you didn't engage."
"I extracted a puppy they were holding. Got into a confrontation. No shots fired, no casualties. But they know who I am. They know where I live."
"I'm sending deputies right now."
"No." Jake looked at the puppies, at Ranger, at Atlas standing guard. "They'll scatter if they see law enforcement. We need a coordinated strike. FBI, Wildlife Services, multiple agencies."
"That takes time to organize."
"I know, but these guys aren't going anywhere. They've got too much invested in that site." Jake paused. "Sheriff, I'm sending you everything I documented. Photos, video, GPS coordinates. It's solid evidence." "How soon can you get it to me?" "Uploading now." Jake spent the next hour transferring files. Then he called Dr. Sarah Chen. She answered on the second ring.
"Jake, is everything okay?"
"Found the 4th puppy, the one they kept. He's safe now, but he's in bad shape. Can you come?"
"I'm on my way."
Dr. Chen arrived 40 minutes later with her full veterinary kit. She examined Valor carefully while Jake filled her in on everything.
"This puppy is severely malnourished. Possible broken rib. Definitely traumatized."
She looked at Jake.
"You saved his life."
"I put all their lives at risk. Those men know where I am."
"Which is why you need to leave. Go somewhere safe until law enforcement handles this."
Jake looked at the 5 dogs. "I'm not leaving them."
"Jake."
"These dogs trusted me. I'm not breaking that trust." He met her eyes. "I've spent 8 months running from everything. I'm done running." Dr. Chen studied him, then nodded. "Okay, then we fortify. Make this place defensible." "We? You think I'm leaving you alone with 5 dogs and a criminal organization that wants you dead?" She smiled. "I'm a veterinarian. I took an oath to protect animals. That includes stubborn Navy SEALs." Despite everything, Jake laughed. They spent the next 2 hours turning the cabin into a fortress. Jake used his tactical knowledge. Sarah used her practical skills. Windows secured, sight lines cleared, emergency escape routes planned. Sheriff Wolf called at noon. "FBI is mobilizing. They want to move tonight, 8 p.m. But Sullivan, they want you to stay out of it." "Not a chance." "I figured you'd say that," Wolf sighed. "Officially, you're a civilian consultant. Unofficially, you're the best tactical asset we have. But if this goes wrong, I know the risks." "Do you?" "Because Victor Kane is ex-Army Ranger. Dishonorable discharge for excessive violence. He's got a crew of guys just like him. This isn't Afghanistan, Jake. You can't just shoot your way out." "I know. That's why we do this smart." The plan came together over the next few hours. FBI tactical team would hit the main camp. Sheriff's department would block escape routes. Wildlife agents would handle the animals, and Jake would lead them in. Because he knew the terrain, knew the layout, knew where every guard position was. At 6 p.m., Sarah looked at him. "You're really doing this?" "I have to." "Why? You gave them the evidence. Let law enforcement handle it." Jake looked at the puppies playing in the corner, at Ranger watching over them, at Atlas sitting alert by the door. Because 3 puppies knocked on my door in a blizzard. Because a mother dog trusted me with her babies. Because for 8 months I've been dead inside, and they brought me back to life. He turned to Sarah. "I have to finish this." She stepped close, kissed his cheek. "Then finish it, and come back." "I will." Another lie that tasted bitter. At 7:30, Jake met Sheriff Wolf and the FBI tactical team 3 miles from the target site. Special Agent Marcus Reed led the unit. 40 years old, hard eyes, skeptical. "You're the SEAL." "Was." "Yeah, well, I don't care what you were. This is an FBI operation. You follow my orders. Clear?" "Crystal." Reed studied him, then nodded. "Show us what you've got." Jake laid out the tactical map he'd drawn. Guard positions, patrol patterns, structural weaknesses, entry points. The FBI agents exchanged looks. "This is professional-grade recon," one of them said. "I'm a professional." Reed smiled for the first time. "All right, Sullivan, you're on point. But you don't engage unless I give the order. We want arrests, not bodies." "Understood." At 8 p.m. they moved in. Jake led the way through the darkness. 12 FBI agents. 4 sheriff's deputies. All of them trusting him not to get them killed. The weight of that responsibility felt familiar, felt right. They reached the perimeter. Jake held up a fist. Everyone stopped. He listened, counted patrol footsteps, timed the rotation, waited for the 30-second window. Then, now! They moved like water, silent, fast, covering ground in seconds that would take normal people minutes. Jake reached the main tent first, pulled aside the canvas flap. Inside, 15 dogs in cages. Fighting pit in the center. Bloodstains on the concrete floor. Men sitting around counting money. "FBI, nobody move!" Chaos erupted. Men scrambling, dogs barking, agents flooding in from every direction. Jake's focus narrowed to pure mission execution. Secure the suspects. Protect the dogs. Complete the objective. Victor Kane bolted for the back exit. Jake intercepted him. "Going somewhere?" Victor swung, fast, trained. Jake blocked, countered. Years of SEAL hand-to-hand combat training took over. 3 moves. Victor was on the ground, hands zip-tied behind his back. "You're done," Jake said quietly. "This isn't over. You know it isn't. There are more operations, more people. You shut down one site, 3 more pop up. Then I'll shut those down too." Victor laughed, blood on his teeth. "You can't save them all, soldier boy. Nobody can. Maybe not, but I can save these." FBI agents hauled Victor away. Jake turned to the dogs. They were terrified, injured, traumatized. Some had been fighting. Some had been losing. All of them needed help. Jake opened the first cage. A scarred pit bull cowered in the back. "It's okay, buddy. You're safe now." The dog didn't believe him. Why would he? Humans had only brought pain. But Jake sat down, made himself small, non-threatening. Waited. It took 5 minutes. Then the pit bull crept forward, sniffed Jake's hand. "That's it. I've got you. Nobody's hurting you again." One by one, Jake helped extract the dogs, agents and deputies working alongside him. Animal control arriving with transport vehicles. 23 dogs total, all alive, all getting a second chance. By midnight, it was over. Every suspect in custody, every dog secured. Evidence collected. Special Agent Reed found Jake sitting against a tree, exhausted, Atlas beside him. "Hell of a night, Sullivan." "Yeah. We're going to need your testimony. This case is going to trial. Federal charges. These guys are looking at serious time." "I'll testify." Reed sat down beside him. "I did some research on you. Silver Star, Purple Heart, 12 years of service. Why'd you leave?" "Medical discharge." "What really happened?" Jake looked at Atlas. "Lost my canine partner. Lost 2 teammates. IED in Helmand Province. I was the only one who walked away. Survivor's guilt." "Something like that." Reed nodded. "You know, the FBI has a tactical canine program, always looking for experienced handlers, guys who know the work, know the bond." "I'm not military anymore." "No, but you're still a warrior. Tonight proved that." Reed stood. "Think about it. World needs men who give a damn." After he left, Jake sat in the darkness with Atlas. "What do you think, boy? We done hiding?" Atlas licked his face. "Yeah, me too." Dawn broke as Jake drove back to the cabin. Every muscle ached. His knuckles were bruised. His soul felt lighter than it had in 8 months. Sarah was waiting on the porch. She ran to him. "You're okay. Thank God, you're okay." "It's done. All the dogs are safe. All the bad guys are arrested." "And you're bleeding." "Just scratches." She dragged him inside, cleaned his wounds, lectured him about being reckless, held him tight. The puppies swarmed his legs. Scout and Luna and Bear and Valor. All 4 together. All safe. Ranger walked up slowly, pushed her head under his hand. "Yeah, Mama. It's over. Your babies are safe. All of them." Jake collapsed onto the couch. The dogs piled on top of him. Atlas squeezed in somehow. Sarah sat beside him. "So what now?" she asked. Jake looked at the 5 dogs, looked at Sarah, looked at the life he'd accidentally built in the middle of nowhere. "Now we figure out what comes next." "We?" "If you'll have us. Me and 5 German shepherds. That's a lot to take on." Sarah smiled. "I run an animal clinic. I'm used to chaos." Outside, the sun rose over the mountains. Inside, 5 dogs and 2 humans who'd found each other in the darkness began to imagine what light might look like. The fight was over. The healing could begin. And Jake Sullivan finally understood why 3 freezing puppies had knocked on his door in the middle of a blizzard. Not because they needed saving, but because he did. The first week was harder than the raid. Jake woke up screaming 3 nights in a row. The nightmares were back. Not Afghanistan this time. The cabin. Victor Kane standing over the puppies. Atlas bleeding. Sarah's voice calling for help that never came. The 4th night, Sarah shook him awake. Jake, you're home. You're safe." He sat up, gasping, his shirt soaked with sweat. All 5 dogs were on the bed. They'd climbed up at some point. Ranger had her head on his chest, the puppies pressed against his sides. "I'm sorry," Jake whispered. "I'm sorry. I should have better control." "Stop." Sarah's voice was firm. "You don't apologize for PTSD. You went through trauma. Your brain is processing it." "I thought I was past this." "Healing isn't linear." She touched his face. "You saved 23 dogs. You took down a criminal organization. You're a hero." "Heroes don't wake up screaming." "Yes, they do. They just don't talk about it." Sarah moved closer.
You need to see someone. A therapist. The VA has programs.
I left the VA.
Then a civilian therapist. Jake, you can't white-knuckle your way through PTSD.
Trust me, I see it in animals all the time. Trauma doesn't disappear because you're tough. It needs treatment. Jake looked at the dogs, all of them watching him with concern. Even the puppies, barely 8 weeks old, seemed to understand something was wrong. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, I'll call someone." Sarah kissed his forehead.
Thank you.
The puppies fell asleep first, then Ranger, then Atlas. Jake lay awake until dawn, listening to them breathe, alive, safe, because he'd fought for them. Maybe that was enough. Sheriff Wolf called at 7 in the morning. "We've got a problem." Jake's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Victor Kane made bail."
What? How? He's facing federal charges.
His lawyer argued he wasn't a flight risk. Judge agreed. He's out pending trial. Jake stood up so fast the puppies tumbled off the bed.
Tom, he threatened to kill me. He knows where I live.
"I know, which is why I'm sending a deputy to watch your place, 24/7 until trial." "When's trial?" 3 months. Federal courts move slow." Jake looked at Sarah. She'd heard everything. Her face had gone pale. 3 months, Jake repeated, with a guy who runs a criminal organization walking around free.
Jake, I'm doing everything I can.
I know you are. Jake ran his hand through his hair. "Thanks for the heads up." After he hung up, Sarah grabbed his hand.
We should leave. Go somewhere safe until trial.
"I'm not running."
It's not running, it's being smart.
"Sarah, if I leave, he wins. If I hide, everything I did means nothing." Jake squeezed her hand. "These dogs trusted me to keep them safe. I'm not breaking that trust."
Even if it gets you killed?
"Especially then." Sarah pulled away.
That's not heroic, Jake. That's stupid.
"Maybe, but it's who I am." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded.
Okay, then we stay. But we're smart about it. No unnecessary risks. We keep the dogs safe.
We keep you safe. Deal. The deputy arrived an hour later. Young guy named Martinez, ex-Marine. He set up in his patrol car at the end of Jake's driveway. "Nobody gets past me, sir," Martinez said. "You have my word. Semper Fi, Marine. Oorah." That afternoon, Dr. Chen performed surgery on Ranger's leg. Sarah assisted. Jake waited with the puppies in the clinic's lobby. Scout sat pressed against his leg. The puppy had gotten bigger in just a week, more confident, more protective of his siblings. Luna explored every corner of the waiting room, curious, fearless. Bear slept in Jake's lap. The runt who'd nearly died was now the most relaxed of the four. And Valor, the one Jake had rescued from the camp, wouldn't leave his side. The puppy had bonded to Jake with an intensity that worried Sarah. "Separation anxiety," she'd said, "common in traumatized animals. He'll need extra attention." Jake didn't mind. Valor reminded him of himself, damaged, healing, learning to trust again. After 2 hours, Sarah emerged.
She's out of surgery. It went well. The leg should heal completely.
Jake felt his chest unclench. "Can I see her?"
Give her an hour to wake up. Then yes.
When Ranger opened her eyes, Jake was there. She lifted her head weakly, saw the puppies, wagged her tail once. "Your babies are all here, Mama. All safe, all healthy." Ranger licked his hand, then closed her eyes and slept. The first legal notice arrived 3 days later. Jake was being subpoenaed to testify in federal court. His deposition was scheduled for the following week.
Special Agent Reed called to prepare him. Victor Kane's lawyers are going to try to discredit you. They'll say you're an unstable veteran, that you hallucinated the whole thing, that you broke into their property illegally. I have video evidence, which they'll claim was doctored. They'll claim you planted evidence. They'll claim anything to create reasonable doubt. Reed paused.
Jake, these guys have expensive lawyers. They're going to come at you hard. You need to be ready. I was a SEAL for 12 years. I think I can handle some lawyers. With respect, sir, lawyers are different than enemy combatants. They don't follow the same rules. Reed was right. The deposition was brutal. Victor Kane's lawyer was a woman named Patricia Brennan, 50 years old, sharp suit, sharper tongue. Mr. Sullivan, you were medically discharged from the Navy, correct? Yes. Can you tell us why? Objection, FBI counsel said. Not relevant. It goes to the witness's state of mind, Brennan countered. The judge allowed it. Jake kept his voice steady. I was injured in combat. Took shrapnel from an IED. My canine partner was killed. So were 2 teammates. I was diagnosed with PTSD and depression. The Navy determined I was unfit for continued service. Unfit for service. Interesting. Brennan smiled. And you're currently on medication for this PTSD and depression? I was. I'm not anymore. Against medical advice? I didn't feel the medication was helping. So you stopped taking prescribed medication for a serious mental health condition. Would you say that was a rational decision? Jake's hands clenched under the table. I made the choice that was right for me. The choice that resulted in you living alone in a cabin in the wilderness? Isolating yourself from society? Some might call that unstable behavior. Some might call it needing space to heal. Or avoiding reality. Brennan leaned forward. Mr. Sullivan, isn't it true that you've been experiencing hallucinations, hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there? No. No? Then how do you explain that on the night you allegedly found these puppies, you were alone in your cabin? No witnesses. No way to verify your story. The puppies are the witnesses. The mother dog is a witness. The injuries they sustained. Injuries that could have occurred in any number of ways. For all we know, you caused those injuries yourself to fabricate this elaborate story. Jake stood up. I would never hurt an animal. Mr. Sullivan, please sit down, the judge said. She's accusing me of animal abuse. I'm simply questioning the veracity of your account, Brennan said smoothly. A man with untreated PTSD, living in isolation, suddenly claims to have discovered a criminal organization. Isn't it more likely that you imagined this entire scenario? Jake's hands were shaking, with rage, with frustration, with the helpless feeling of being attacked and not being able to fight back. FBI counsel intervened. Your Honor, counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Ms. Brennan, move on. But the damage was done. Jake could see it in the court reporter's face, in the judge's expression. They were wondering if maybe he was crazy. The deposition lasted 4 hours. By the end, Jake felt like he'd been in a firefight. Maybe worse. Sarah was waiting outside. She took one look at his face and pulled him into her arms. They think I'm crazy, Jake said. They're going to say I made the whole thing up. You have evidence. You have witnesses. Victor Kane's lawyers are going to tear everything apart. They're going to make me look like a paranoid veteran who can't tell reality from fantasy. Then we get our own expert. We get a psychologist to evaluate you, prove you're stable. Jake pulled away. What if I'm not? What if they're right? What if I am crazy and I just don't know it? Jake Sullivan, look at me. Sarah grabbed his face. You saved 5 dogs. You took down a criminal organization. You put your life on the line for animals who couldn't save themselves. That's not crazy. That's courage. Courage looks a lot like crazy sometimes. Not to me. That night, Bear got sick, started vomiting, wouldn't eat. His temperature spiked to 104. Sarah examined him carefully. It's parvovirus. Probably picked it up from the camp. It's highly contagious. Fatal in puppies this young. Jake felt his world tilt. Can you treat it? We can try. But Jake, the survival rate for parvo is only about 50%, even with treatment. What do we do? IV fluids, anti-nausea medication, antibiotics to prevent secondary infection, and pray. They set up a quarantine area. Bear went into Sarah's clinic. The other 3 puppies had to be monitored. Ranger and Atlas seemed okay. Jake stayed with Bear through the night. The puppy was so weak, so small, fighting for every breath. Come on, buddy. You survived hypothermia. You survived that blizzard. You can survive this. Bear's eyes opened, looked at Jake with complete trust. I'm not letting you go. You hear me? I already lost too many. I'm not losing you. Sarah checked in every 2 hours, adjusted medication, monitored vitals. Her face got more worried each time. At 3 a.m, Bear's heart rate dropped. Sarah grabbed the crash cart. Jake, you need to leave. I'm not leaving him. If his heart stops, then I'll be here when it does. Jake held the tiny puppy in his hands. Come on, Bear. Fight. Fight like you did that first night. You're stronger than this. Bear's breathing slowed, then stopped. No! Jake started CPR, gentle chest compressions on a puppy that weighed 2 pounds. Don't you dare quit on me. Don't you dare. Sarah pushed medication, monitored, waited. 30 seconds. Nothing. 60 seconds. Nothing. Jake kept going. Come on, Bear. Come on. 90 seconds. Bear gasped. His little chest moved. His heart started beating again. Jake collapsed back, tears streaming down his face. That's it. That's my boy. Sarah checked the monitors. He's stable. For now. Jake, that was incredible. That was terrifying. That was love. Bear survived the night, then the next day, then the next. Slowly, he got stronger, started eating, started playing. 1 week later, Dr. Chen declared him fully recovered. I've never seen a puppy bounce back from parvo that severe, she said. He's a miracle. He's a fighter, like his mom. The court case progressed. Jake testified 3 more times. Each time, Victor Kane's lawyers attacked his credibility, his mental health, his motivations. But the evidence was solid. The video, the photos, the 23 rescued dogs, the physical evidence from the camp. 2 months into trial, the jury came back. Guilty on all counts. Victor Kane was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Jake stood outside the courthouse with Sheriff Wolf. It's over, Wolf said. He's going away for a long time. Until he gets out on good behavior. Until his organization sends someone else. Until... Jake. Wolf gripped his shoulder. You won. Let yourself feel that. Jake looked at the courthouse, thought about all the animals that had been saved, all the suffering that had been stopped. Yeah, he said quietly. We won. That evening, Special Agent Reed called. I wanted to congratulate you. That was a hell of a trial. Thanks. I also wanted to remind you of my offer. FBI Tactical Canine Unit. We need experienced handlers, men who understand the work. I'm not military anymore. No, but you're still a warrior.
And the world needs warriors who fight for things that can't fight for themselves. Reed paused. Think about it. No pressure, but the offer stands. After he hung up, Sarah looked at Jake. Are you considering it? I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me is tired of fighting. What does the bigger part say? Jake looked at the 5 dogs. Ranger fully healed now. The puppies growing strong and confident. Atlas watching over all of them. The bigger part says I need to figure out what I'm fighting for before I can decide how to fight.
The answer came a week later. A young man appeared at Jake's door. 23 years old, Army infantry, recently discharged, holding a malnourished dog he'd found on the side of the road. Are you Jake Sullivan? The kid asked. His hands were shaking. The guy who saved those dogs? Yeah. I'm Marcus Webb. I heard about what you did, about the dogs, about fighting for them. The kid's voice cracked. I need help. My dog needs help, and I don't know where else to go. Jake looked at this kid, saw himself 8 months ago, lost, broken, desperate for something to hold on to. Come inside, Jake said. You're in the right place. Sarah helped treat the dog. Malnutrition, abuse, fear. But savable. Definitely savable. Marcus sat at Jake's table. I've been having nightmares. Can't sleep. Can't work. The VA prescribed pills, but they make everything worse. I know the feeling. Everyone keeps telling me to move on. Get over it. Act normal. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. But I can't. I lost my whole squad. I was the only one who made it out, and I don't know why. I don't know why I survived, and they didn't. Jake sat down across from him. Survivor's guilt. Yeah. I have it too. Lost my canine partner and 2 teammates 8 months ago. Came out here to hide from it. Did it work? Jake looked at the 5 dogs, at Sarah, at the life he'd accidentally built. No, but something else did. What? Finding something worth fighting for. Something that needed me. Jake gestured to the dogs. These 5 knocked on my door in the middle of a blizzard. They were dying. They needed help. And helping them, it gave me a reason to keep going. Marcus looked at the dog he'd brought. You think my dog could be that for me? I think he already is. You found him. You brought him here for help. That's not giving up. That's fighting. I don't feel like I'm fighting. I feel like I'm drowning. Then let me throw you a rope. Over the next week, Jake worked with Marcus and his dog. Basic training, bonding exercises, outdoor therapy. The same stuff that had helped Jake heal. Sarah watched from a distance. On the 5th day, she approached Jake while Marcus was playing with his dog outside. You're good at this, she said. At what? Helping, teaching, giving people hope. I'm just doing what worked for me. No, you're doing more than that. Sarah turned to face him. Jake, have you thought about making this official? Starting a program for veterans and rescue dogs? I'm not qualified. You're exactly qualified. You're a veteran. You have PTSD. You understand the work. You've trained military working dogs. And you have a gift for helping both animals and people heal. Jake looked at Marcus. The kid was laughing for the first time all week. His dog was playing, running, acting like a normal dog. I wouldn't know where to start. I would. I run an animal clinic. I have connections with rescue organizations, with the VA, with veterinary schools. Sarah took his hand. We could do this together. Help veterans. Help rescue dogs. Make a real difference. Jake thought about it. about spending his life hiding in a cabin versus spending it helping people like Marcus. People like him. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." 3 months later, Mountain Mission K9 officially launched. A nonprofit pairing rescue dogs with veterans suffering from PTSD. The first class had 5 veterans, 5 rescued dogs. Jake trained both. Sarah provided veterinary support. The results were immediate. Veterans who'd been on multiple medications started reducing doses. Dogs who'd been unadoptable found purpose. Healing happened on both sides. News spread. More veterans applied. More rescue organizations partnered. Within 6 months, Jake's cabin property had expanded to include a training facility, kennels, and housing for participants. Sheriff Wolf donated funds. Special Agent Reed sent referrals. Dr. Chen volunteered full-time. The original 5 dogs became ambassadors. Scout trained for search and rescue. Luna became a therapy dog. Bear, the runt who'd nearly died, became a mobility assistance dog for a disabled veteran. Valor stayed with Jake, his personal companion, his reminder of where this all started. And Ranger, the mother who'd sent her puppies through a blizzard to find help. She stayed too. The matriarch, the guardian, the reason everything else was possible. 1 year after 3 puppies knocked on his door, Jake stood on his porch watching the sunrise. Sarah beside him, 5 dogs at their feet, 10 veterans and their dogs training in the yard. "You did this," Sarah said. "We did this." "No, they did this." She pointed to Scout and Luna and Bear and Valor. To Ranger sleeping peacefully in the sun. 3 freezing puppies who refused to quit, who led you to something bigger than yourself. Jake pulled her close. "Best knock on my door I ever answered. Think you'll answer the next one?" "What next one?" Sarah handed him a letter. FBI insignia. Official. Special Agent Reed called. "The FBI wants to partner with your program. Use it as a model for other cities. They're offering funding, national expansion, and they want you to lead it." Jake opened the letter, read the offer, looked at the dogs, at the veterans, at the life he'd built from darkness. "What do you think?" Sarah asked. Jake thought about hiding in a cabin 8 months ago, about wanting to disappear, about being dead inside. And he thought about now, about purpose, about healing, about fighting for things that mattered. "I think 3 puppies knocked on my door for a reason," he said. "And I'm not done answering that knock yet." Sarah smiled. "Then let's answer it together." The healing had just begun, but for the first time in a long time, Jake Sullivan believed in tomorrow. Believed in purpose. Believed that maybe, just maybe, he'd been saved by 3 freezing puppies, so he could save others in return. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 5 years changed everything. Jake stood in front of the new facility, 3 buildings where his cabin used to stand alone, and still couldn't quite believe it was real. Mountain Mission K9 had grown from 5 veterans and 5 dogs to a national program. 200 veterans helped, 300 dogs rescued and placed. Funding from the FBI, the VA, private donors who'd read the stories and wanted to be part of something that mattered. Sarah appeared beside him with coffee. She wore a ring now. They'd married 2 years ago, in a ceremony attended by 60 veterans and twice as many dogs. "You're doing it again," she said. "Doing what?" "Looking at all this like you don't deserve it." Jake took the coffee. "I just opened a door. They did the rest." "You did a lot more than open a door." Sarah pointed to the training yard where Marcus Webb, the first veteran Jake had helped, was now working as a full-time instructor. "You gave that kid his life back." "He gave himself his life back. I just showed him how." "Stubborn man." "You married me anyway." Sarah kissed his cheek. "Best decision I ever made." Valor appeared from the main building. The dog was 5 years old now, full-grown, magnificent. He'd never left Jake's side. Never would. "We've got a new arrival," Sarah said. "Young woman, Army combat medic, just discharged. She called from the road, says she's desperate." Jake had heard that word 1,000 times in 5 years. Desperate. It's what people said when they'd run out of options, when suicide felt closer than hope. "Where is she?" "Waiting room. She brought a dog with her. Stray she found 3 days ago. Both of them look like they haven't eaten in a week." Jake headed inside. Valor followed. They found the woman in the waiting area. Mid-20s. Hollow eyes. Hands shaking. A malnourished mutt beside her. She looked up when Jake entered. "Are you Jake Sullivan?" "I am." "I'm Emily Parker. Her voice cracked. "I don't know where else to go." Jake sat down across from her. "You're in the right place. Tell me what's happening." Emily's story spilled out. Combat medic in Iraq. Lost 3 patients in 1 week. Couldn't save them. Came home with PTSD and survivor's guilt. VA gave her pills that made everything worse. She'd been planning to end it. Then she found the dog on the side of the road, barely alive. Something about saving him made her want to keep living, at least for another day. "I saw your program online. Read about what you do, about pairing veterans with rescue dogs, about healing together." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Can you help us? Both of us?" Jake looked at the dog, looked at Emily, saw himself 5 years ago. "Yeah," he said quietly. "We can help you." Sarah examined the dog, a mixed breed, maybe 40 pounds, severe malnutrition, possible internal injuries. She started treatment immediately, while Jake got Emily settled. "The program is 6 weeks intensive," Jake explained. "You and your dog train together, learn together, heal together. It's not easy. Some days you'll want to quit." "I want to quit now." "I know, but you drove here instead. That's fighting. That's courage." Emily wiped her eyes. "I don't feel courageous." "You will." That evening, Jake sat on his porch with Sarah. The original 5 dogs were there. Scout, now a certified search and rescue dog who'd found 3 missing hikers. Luna, a therapy dog working with children at the hospital. Bear, a mobility assistance dog for a wounded veteran. Valor, still at Jake's side. And Ranger, 8 years old now, the gentle matriarch who watched over every new dog that came through. "That girl reminds me of you," Sarah said. "Emily? She's got that same look you had, like she's drowning and doesn't know if she wants to be saved." "She'll make it. Her dog needs her. That's enough to keep fighting." "Is it always enough?" Jake thought about that. "No, but it's a start." His phone rang. Special Agent Reed. "Jake, we have a situation." Jake's stomach tightened. "What kind of situation?" "Victor Kane was released on parole this morning." The world stopped. "What?" "Good behavior. Served 5 years of his 18-year sentence. He's out." Jake stood up. The dogs immediately sensed his tension. "Tom Wolfe said he'd notify me if that happened." "Sheriff Wolfe passed away 2 months ago. Heart attack. His replacement didn't know to flag this." Jake felt like he'd been punched. Tom Wolfe, the man who'd stood beside him during the raid, who'd believed in him when everyone else thought he was crazy. "Where is Kane now?" "Unknown. He checked in with his parole officer yesterday. Hasn't been seen since." So he's already violated parole. Looks that way. Jake, I'm sending federal marshals to your location. Until we find him, I'm not hiding. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be smart. This man threatened to kill you. He has connections, resources, and now he's free. After Reed hung up, Sarah grabbed Jake's hand. We need to close the facility. Send the veterans home until this is resolved. No. Jake, these people came here because they had nowhere else to go. I'm not sending them back into the world unprotected. Jake looked at the facility, at the veterans inside who were finally learning to live again. We increase security. We stay alert. But we don't stop. He could kill you. Then I'll die doing something that matters. Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. That's not romantic, Jake. That's selfish. You think these veterans can handle losing you? You think I can? Jake hadn't thought about it that way. Sarah, no, you listen to me. You're not just one man anymore. You're not a SEAL who can run solo missions and damn the consequences. You have a wife. You have a program. You have 200 veterans who look up to you. Her voice broke. You have me, and I can't lose you. Jake pulled her close. I'm sorry. You're right. I'll be careful. Promise me. I promise. But promises were hard to keep when evil came knocking. Victor Kane appeared 3 days later. Jake was in the training yard, working with Emily and her dog. She'd named him Phoenix. The dog was getting stronger. Emily was starting to smile. Then Valor's ears went up. The shepherd's whole body went rigid. Alert. Threat. Jake turned. A man stood at the gate. Older. Thinner. But unmistakably Victor Kane. Well, well, Victor said. Look at what you've built, Sullivan. Quite the little empire. Jake moved between Victor and Emily. You're violating parole by being here. I'm visiting a public facility. Nothing illegal about that. You were ordered to stay away from me. Was I? Must have forgotten. Victor smiled. Cold. Empty. You took everything from me. My business, my freedom, 5 years of my life. You earned every second. And now I'm here to collect what you owe me. Jake's hand moved toward his phone. Victor was faster. He pulled a gun from his jacket. Emily screamed. Phoenix started barking. Valor moved into attack position. Call off your dog, Victor said quietly, or I start shooting. Valor, stay. Jake's voice was calm. Years of training kept the fear buried deep. Victor, you don't want to do this. You're already violating parole. Add assault with a deadly weapon, and you're going away forever. I'm already going away forever. You made sure of that. Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. At least I'll have the satisfaction of taking you with me. Sarah appeared from the main building, saw the situation, reached for her phone. Don't, Victor warned. I've got nothing to lose, lady. Don't make me prove it. Marcus Webb emerged next. Then 3 other veterans, all of them seeing the threat, all of them moving into defensive positions without being told. You trained them well, Victor observed, but it doesn't matter. You're still going to die. Maybe, Jake said, but if you shoot me, these 5 veterans are going to take you down. You'll be dead before you can fire a second shot. Is that really how you want this to end? Victor hesitated, just for a second. Jake pressed. You spent 5 years in prison, got out early. You could disappear, start over somewhere new. Or you could throw it all away for revenge. Your choice. You destroyed my life. No, you destroyed your own life. I just stopped you from destroying others. For a long moment, nobody moved. The gun pointed at Jake's chest. 5 veterans ready to attack. Dogs growling. The whole world balanced on the edge of a decision.
Then Victor lowered the gun. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is."
Federal marshals arrived 10 minutes later. They'd been monitoring Victor's ankle bracelet, arrested him for parole violation and assault with a deadly weapon. As they led him away in handcuffs, Victor looked back at Jake. "You think you won, but you can't save them all. Eventually, you'll fail, and when you do, you'll remember I told you so." After the marshals left, Jake collapsed onto a bench. His hands were shaking. Sarah sat beside him, wrapped her arms around him. "It's over," she whispered. "Really over this time." "He's right, you know." "About what?" "I can't save them all. Eventually, I'll fail. Someone will slip through. Someone will give up. Someone will—" "Jake." Sarah turned his face toward hers. "You're not responsible for saving everyone. You're responsible for being here, for trying, for giving people hope. That's enough." Emily approached cautiously, Phoenix beside her. "Mr. Sullivan, I just wanted to say, what you did, standing between that man and us, that was—" She couldn't finish. Jake stood. "That's what we do here. We protect each other. You'd do the same." "I don't know if I would." "You will. Give it time." 6 weeks later, Emily graduated from the program. Phoenix was her certified service dog. She had a job lined up, an apartment, a reason to wake up in the morning. "You saved my life," she told Jake at the ceremony. "You saved your own life. Phoenix just gave you a reason to." "Same thing you did, with those 3 puppies 5 years ago." Jake looked at Ranger, at Scout and Luna and Bear and Valor. All of them older now, grayer, but still strong, still here. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Same thing." The FBI partnership expanded the program nationally. Facilities in 12 cities. 500 veterans helped. 800 dogs rescued. The model worked. The results spoke for themselves. Jake traveled between locations, training instructors, evaluating programs. But he always came home to Colorado, to the cabin that had started everything. One winter evening, 5 years and 3 months after 3 puppies knocked on his door, Jake sat on his porch watching snowfall, Valor beside him. Sarah was inside making dinner. The facility was quiet, veterans and dogs sleeping peacefully. Ranger walked out slowly, 8 years old now. She moved stiffly. The cold bothered her joints. "Hey, Mama," Jake said softly. She laid her head on his knee, the same way she'd done 5 years ago when he'd saved her from that snare. "You did good," Jake told her. "Your puppies grew up strong, helped save hundreds of people, all because you sent them to my door that night." Ranger's tail thumped once, weak but deliberate. Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Jake, come inside. It's freezing." "In a minute." She saw him with Ranger and understood, came out and sat beside them both. "She's slowing down," Sarah said quietly. "I know. We should prepare." "I know that too." They sat in silence, 3 beings who'd found each other in darkness and built something beautiful from it. Ranger died 2 weeks later, peacefully, in her sleep, surrounded by her puppies and the man who'd saved her life. Jake buried her under the oak tree behind the cabin. Scout and Luna and Bear and Valor stood with him. They understood. Loss was part of life. But so was love. At the funeral, because that's what it was, a funeral for a dog who'd changed everything, 50 veterans attended. They'd all heard the story. The mother dog who'd sent her puppies through a blizzard to find help. The seal who'd answered their knock. The lives saved because one dog refused to give up. Marcus Webb spoke. Ranger taught us that asking for help isn't weakness, that protecting the ones you love is worth any sacrifice, that sometimes the smallest action, like sending 3 puppies to a door, can change the world. Emily Parker read a poem she'd written about healing, about second chances, about dogs who save humans as much as humans save dogs. Jake couldn't speak. Too many emotions, too much loss mixed with too much gratitude. Sarah took his hand. She knew she was loved. That's all any of us can ask for. 3 months after Ranger died, Sarah told Jake she was pregnant. He stood in the kitchen, holding the positive test like it was a grenade. "Are you sure?" "I'm a doctor, Jake, I'm sure." "But we never talked about—" "I know, it wasn't planned, but it's happening." Sarah's voice was uncertain. "How do you feel about it?" Jake looked out the window, saw Valor playing with a new puppy in the training yard, saw Marcus teaching a veteran how to bond with her rescue dog, saw Scout and Luna and Bear, Ranger's legacy, helping heal broken people. "Terrified," he said honestly, "and happy, and completely unprepared. That's fatherhood." "I don't know how to be a father. I've spent 5 years learning how to be barely functional. How am I supposed to raise a kid?" Sarah moved close. "The same way you helped 200 veterans, one day at a time, with patience, with love, with the understanding that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present." "What if I fail?" "Then you try again. That's what you taught me. That's what you teach everyone here." She put his hand on her stomach. "This baby is already lucky, because it has a father who knows how to fight for what matters." Jake looked at his hand, at the life growing inside Sarah, at the future he'd never imagined 5 years ago, when he'd been dead inside. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, let's do this." The baby, a girl, was born 7 months later. They named her Rachel, after Jake's mother. She had Sarah's eyes and Jake's stubborn determination. Valor appointed himself guardian. The dog slept outside the nursery every night. Jake held his daughter for the first time and felt something click into place. Not healing, not fixing, just acceptance. That life moved forward, that loss and joy could coexist, that broken people could build beautiful things. On Rachel's first birthday, they threw a party at the facility. 70 veterans attended, twice as many dogs. Scout and Luna and Bear came home for the celebration. Emily Parker was there with Phoenix. She'd been sober for 2 years, had a job counseling other veterans. "None of this happens without you," she told Jake. Marcus Webb brought his fiancée, a veterinarian he'd met through the program. "We're getting married next spring. You better be there." Wouldn't miss it. Special Agent Reed appeared with surprising news. "The Bureau wants to fund a documentary about your program. Show the country what's possible when we invest in healing instead of just medication." Jake looked at Sarah, at Rachel, at the life they'd built. "As long as it focuses on the veterans, not on me." Deal. That evening, Jake walked the property alone, Valor beside him. They stopped at Ranger's grave. "Your daughter is 1 year old today, Mama. She's beautiful, strong, loved." Jake knelt. "And your 3 puppies, they're still saving lives, every day, because you refused to give up, because you sent them to my door." Valor nudged his hand. "I know, boy. Time to go home." But Jake stayed a little longer, remembering, grieving, grateful. 5 years and 18 months after 3 freezing puppies knocked on his door, Jake Sullivan stood on his porch watching the sunset. Sarah beside him, with Rachel in her arms, Valor at his feet. Scout and Luna and Bear visiting for the weekend. "What are you thinking?" Sarah asked. "That I almost missed all of this. If those puppies hadn't shown up, if I'd stayed isolated, if I'd given up." "But you didn't." "Because they wouldn't let me." "They chose well." Jake looked at his wife, his daughter, his dogs, the facility full of veterans learning to live again. "Victor Kane was wrong about something," Jake said. "What?" "He said I couldn't save them all. He was right about that. But what he didn't understand is that I'm not trying to save them. I'm trying to show them how to save themselves." Jake pulled Sarah close. "That's the difference between rescue and recovery. Rescue is a moment. Recovery is a journey, and you don't walk it alone." Rachel reached for Valor. The big shepherd lowered his head gently so she could touch his fur. The same gentleness Ranger had shown, the same protection. "What do you want Rachel to know about this place?" Sarah asked. "About how it started?" Jake thought about 3 tiny puppies stumbling through a blizzard, about a mother dog who'd sent them to a stranger's door, about the knock that had changed everything. "I want her to know that the smallest acts of courage can change the world, that asking for help is strength, not weakness, that sometimes you have to be broken down completely before you can be rebuilt into who you're meant to be." He kissed his daughter's head. "And I want her to know that when someone knocks on your door in the middle of a storm, literally or metaphorically, you answer. Because that's what heroes do. Not because they're perfect, but because they choose to show up." Sarah smiled. "She'll learn that just by watching you." "Us. She'll learn it by watching us." As darkness fell, Jake turned on the porch light, the same light that had guided 3 puppies home 5 years ago. Now it guided veterans from darkness into healing, guided dogs from death into purpose, guided Jake himself from isolation into love. The knock that had changed everything wasn't just those 3 puppies on that frozen night. It was every veteran who called asking for help, every dog who needed rescue, every moment when someone chose courage over fear. And Jake Sullivan, former Navy SEAL, broken warrior, accidental healer, would keep answering, keep fighting, keep showing up. Not because he was special, but because 3 freezing puppies had taught him something precious. That the smallest lives can lead to the greatest battles worth fighting. And that healing doesn't come from hiding from the world, but from opening your door to it. The facility lights glowed in the darkness. Inside, 40 veterans and 40 dogs slept peacefully. Tomorrow they'd train, they'd struggle, they'd heal a little more. And Jake would be there, Sarah beside him, Rachel growing up surrounded by love and purpose, Valor guarding them all. 5 dogs had knocked on his door and saved his life. Now he'd spend the rest of his life answering that knock for others. That was his mission, his calling, his reason for surviving when so many hadn't. It was enough, more than enough. It was everything. And it had all started with 3 freezing puppies who'd refused to give up, a mother who'd refused to let them die, and a man who'd been broken just enough to understand that sometimes the greatest strength comes from admitting you need help, and the greatest courage comes from giving it.